Thank you, Cédric, so much for joining the podcast. I've been watching you online for a while.
Thank you so much.
You're very active, and I see your content everywhere. And it's really inspiring because you got different pieces of content. You got interviews. You got motivational quotes, different pieces of content. And I want our listeners to know who you are and what you do. So maybe we can start with that.
Sure. So my name is Cédric Bollag. Right now I'm 29 years old. I grew up here in Zurich. After I finished my high school, I moved to Israel. I lived there. Originally planned was 1 year. I ended up staying for 7 years. And I would say it was there where I first was introduced to this concept of startups. Was really inspired by the local startup ecosystem, also based on the job I had back then. Right after I finished my bachelor's, I joined a venture capital fund for an internship for 3 months. And I was really inspired by all of the startups they got to see. So like the classic deal flow part, I wanted to be part of, which really inspired me to see all of like these entrepreneurs who really work on a vision that they see, how they see the future differently than the current status quo. And then I moved into a startup for half a year in a fintech space, which was also really inspiring, where for the first time I saw these two worlds of the technology and business colliding and really seeing like how these merge and work together. That was really cool. And then in my job that I had for a little bit of a longer time was worked for a market research company, which is called AdKit, which is a subsidiary of Nielsen Research in Israel. And there I was really like kind of like the innovation scout, where we were looking for the latest startups that would help the top management, C-level people of the local banks, or more in the financial sector, to make strategic decisions on the strategy of their companies. And really, like, we were giving them the information and presenting them the information of what is going on. And that is kind of like where I would say the spark of this entrepreneurial journey started, where really like I discovered that like I really enjoy hanging out like with entrepreneurs who have a vision, as I said before, but also like have a spark in their eyes that you very rarely see in corporate world. I'm not saying you don't see it, but you see it much less. It's very hard to see. Yeah, that is something that like I just wanted to expose myself, and I then had like this urge to start something on my own. And starting something on my own back then, more or less a student, very low income. It was very hard, so I started with the blog, which I'm not sure if you're going to ask about this, but like that's how it kind of like started. Where I then started with a text-based blog, we call it back then. I mean, the name globaltechbox.com was already then established, but then we first had like a text-based blog series, which we called #StartupMonday, where I would pick a disruptive industry and present 3 startups. To cut the story short, it was really, really boring. No one read it. And it was just not my online voice. So very quickly I would hire a ghostwriter, which helped me to write it. So that kind of like showed me like, Cédric, this is not your voice online. And I then, started with videos. And from there on, the feedback was much better from my audience.
Yeah, I can totally see that. The video is very engaging, and it's very nice to learn from people in video, and text is just a different type.
It's a different experience.
So you started out with something that didn't work. From there you could go, okay, text doesn't work, what should I do? How did you decide to go to video, and how did you find out or realize that this was going to work for you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I always try to say like it's always a process, and it's very much connected to the gut feeling. And one of my biggest learnings was that I didn't speak to any of my target audience for the first 50 videos I did. And I think like if I did that much earlier, just asking what the people want, or like where people's attention is right now, then like I would have been able to make this decision maybe even earlier. Nevertheless, once I started talking to them, they said like, yeah, I see like you're posting some stuff, but I don't really see like what's it about, which is kind of like the definition of like your content sucks.
A nice way to put it.
It's like kind of like, okay, like I'm not looking or watching or paying attention to what you're doing. But like with video again, like the moment like I started posting videos, even though again the quality of the videos, the first few videos, you can still find them on YouTube. If you scroll way down, you can find them. Like the production sucked. Like it was really, really bad. But like the feedback that I got from the people was like, oh wow, I saw you met like this interesting person. Like I couldn't hear what you were saying, or the context or the insights of like what you were talking was not understandable and didn't make any sense. But like at least people were engaging with me, whether that was online and even more so offline. When you meet these people, you just really pretty quickly get the sense that like you're having an impact. And that is like what I was looking for. I wanted to have an impact on the entrepreneurs.
So we're jumping around in my questions here a little bit, but you just mentioned your target audience. You didn't talk to them. Who was your target audience for the content?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, we have always the side of the entrepreneurs and we have the side of the investors. So like for the actual recording, we always try to provide as much value as possible to the entrepreneurs. We try to really maximize their time we have with them, minimizing the amount of time we need. So like we don't spend the whole day in their offices trying to get like a little piece of content. We really spend about 60 minutes with them to keep it as short as possible, and making sure that we get as much content as possible for our channels. On the other side, like once we have the videos produced, we try to serve the investors, so venture capitalists, early stage investors, private investors, angel investors, all the people who are considering investing in early stage startups. And I did about, I would say, 50 off the record interviews with investors, asking them, hey, I'm conducting these videos anyway, so you might as well tell me like what should I be talking in these videos, and that seemed to really resonate with them, and many people gave me very good insights. And what happened after about 30 interviews, I realized, okay, like the question investors are asking to startups in an early due diligence process I kept repeating themselves. So like they always want to know who is the founder, who is the team, was this their idea, do they actually have the expertise, how do they get to a $1 billion valuation? So like those are all of the questions that kept repeating itself. So this we incorporated then into our videos in a kind of like a feedback loop. So we try to really consistently adjust to the investors and what their needs are.
All right, so you would do a low-level due diligence with
Absolutely.
your videos.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, like one of the key things that like all of the investors are saying is the first stages of an investment is always about like, do you have the right gut feeling? Do you feel close to the founder? Do you feel like you can help them? Like obviously it's a financial decision, and I understand that like long term you have to make a 20, 30x return on your money, but bottom line is in the early stages you have no numbers to rely on, and all the startups have hockey sticks charts, so like it's not going to help you. And like a video, in the way we can produce videos these days, which is fairly simple and cheap, I think it's a very simple way to add this layer of confidence to the decision of the investor. Watching these videos, maybe even before first meeting, maybe after, but like in the early stage of a company.
Right. And do they also, these videos work a little bit as a scouting mechanism, so they maybe find out about startups that they didn't know before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is part of my vision. I hope that at some point, like, you know, people will understand that like the content of our videos should be at the level that they really feel like we maybe even do not have to meet them as a first meeting. We can go directly into...
Skip the first meeting.
I mean, it's not really...
That's a good
realistic, but I think like maybe we can get to a point where people say like, yes, because we watch this video and relying on the independence of this video, and let's say even if I put money into these companies, they understand that like it's either where I put my money or I have my honest opinion, then they will say like, okay, I want to get inspired by these videos for potential investment opportunities.
So you quickly talked about the vision. Maybe I quickly want to jump back to the beginning. What you do is you create content, and that is, in my understanding, a very long-term game.
Yes.
You cannot do that for 3 months.
No.
I mean, you can, but the results will be...
Happen,
nothing's going to happen. So for someone who's starting out, first of all, you need to know it's a long-term game. You need to commit to it. But then once you commit it, what was your experience growing your audience? What did you do in the I don't know, maybe the first 6 months of doing video? Things that really had an impact?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's really no secret sauce besides patience. I think many people, I would say the most loyal subscribers, followers, whatever you want to call it, or people who watch my videos are the people that I had face-to-face, like meetings where we sat together and explained it to them. And then they like really started watching those videos and understand like what is the added value they can get from watching such an episode. But again, there's no secret sauce. I mean, like we had some techniques, like what we did, I can give you a couple of examples. Like before every show, we send out about 20 to 30 emails to shared LinkedIn connections that I have as the founder. Mm-hmm. And like this, number one, we get very insightful content, like we get very cool information about people that you cannot find online. Yeah. Number two, you interact with people that like are then maybe have never heard of you or are actually like following you and are happy to contribute to the shows.
Yeah.
So like this is like one of the hacks that we use to really like for every show we have we have about 20 to 30 interactions with people to like tell them about what we're doing, and from that a lot of has happened. Like whenever like we then follow up, so let's say you popped up as like a shared connection, I send you an email, you reply, say like, yeah, I have this question for this founder, and then once we publish the video, like I'm sending you another email saying like, hey, the video is now published, thank you so much for contributing. So from this email, so many replies come, hey, like I really like what you do, why don't we meet for coffee, or like I have a very good opportunity for you, like why don't we do this together? And so like there's not really any kind of like shortcut there. I mean,
no,
like you can use paid promotion, you can use Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram ads. I think they work really well, and I think they're really underpriced, and you should definitely do it. But then it's more like a budget game. Then it's like, how much money do you have to invest into these ads?
Exactly.
That's definitely something. If you want to accelerate the process, highly recommend it. If you want to do more on the organic side, where it's maybe just your time that you have to spend, then I would highly recommend to cold email as many people as you can in a personal way. So never spam, never like, there's just no shortcut.
Don't use MailChimp and...
No. You can use MailChimp, you can use, but I'm saying like a personalized email showing someone that like this person was chosen for a reason and not just because it popped up, like you found that email somewhere online. Is so much valuable. I can tell you, like from the cold emails we send of this 20 to 30 emails is about 40%. So 40% reply, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a neat thing to do, and yeah, I want to emphasize the point you said, it's patience.
Yeah, and it adds up. Like if you do one a week, so what I do is sometimes we skip a Monday for holidays, if Easter or whatever falls exactly on a Monday, we don't publish. But in general, let's say we get to 45 and you have 50 interactions for every episode, that adds up. And if you do this over 3 years, it adds up.
Yeah. Wow. That's true. That's true. You have been at it for 3 years now.
Yes.
I think these content creation startups are super interesting. The question that a lot of people ask us doing the podcast is, how do you plan to even make money with it? How do you finance it, and so on? That was one thing I was wondering about you. I checked out your website. So there's you kind of offer your service or your knowledge and expertise in different
ways. Yeah,
in different ways. Maybe you can talk about someone who wants to create content for a group of people. What ways are there to kind of finance that?
Mm-hmm. Like again, what I want to emphasize very, very clearly, when I started until today, I have not a sure picture of like how we can make money with this, but I am certain that like over time, the amount of impact that you have will be more and more valuable and recognized by people and companies. Even if I don't have a clear answer right now, we are trying different things. So we have different revenue streams. We have a long-term goal. So like eventually long-term, I want to start investing in these startups. So
I have a question about that too.
Sure.
I'm very excited about that.
Okay. So long-term, I want to invest in startups. So if you're a venture capital firm, if a very clear business model, you have a 220. So you take a 2% management fee and 20% on the carried interest. So like this is not rocket science.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
It just takes some time. And I, by the way, just in brackets, the reason like why I decided also to start it, because like when I spoke to all of these investors, they said like one of the key things that you need as investors is to know the entrepreneurs and understand their language and speak to them and understand how to build a relationship with an entrepreneur. And when I started, I was a student, so like I couldn't invest my money, I could invest my time, I could invest maybe in some equipment to like get started, but in general, like for me, it was important to build this network with the entrepreneurs and see how I can support them. Now, how we make money. So I started, and then about a year, two and a half years ago, it got too much to do everything by myself. So I started adding people, team members from all around the world, freelancers that would help me. back then still no business model, and then like slowly, you know, my savings are going down.
Right,
so like
exactly, that's what I thought it was.
So like your savings goes down, so you have to say like, okay, like let's figure out how we can make money with this. So basically, I looked at my team and we brainstormed and we came up with the idea like, let's make the startup show framework that we sell to corporates. So like we look at like what we can do right now, which is like we are focused on interviews, we're focused on insightful content. That's what we're doing. So like we go to corporates and we work with them to create podcasts, to create video series. We only create video series because as you said before, we don't believe in the one-time video that like goes viral.
Yeah.
I even turned down a very, very big corporate. They wanted me to do a very big viral video. Yes, I said like, this is not reality. This is not realistic. If it's about the numbers, then we'll invest money in YouTube ads and I can get you the numbers. But in general, like I don't believe in one time. So that is one. And then more and more often, I'm fortunate to be able to speak in front of audiences, which I think is kind of like a nice way to make some extra money. And we're continuously looking like how we can monetize the current team that we have to really make some revenue and make some profits to continue creating content. But I have to say, everything that we have been doing in this content creation space is because we started not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So like I really believe and I get so much feedback since I started communicating this notion of like, hey, no one has it figured out. Okay, like maybe you have it figured out with the finances, the other guy has it figured out with the fitness, and the third guy has it figured out with like family and kids. But like there's not one person who has it all figured out. So like that is so like that resonates. It seems to me that many people resonate with that statement that like it just no one has it figured out in everything. And even if it looks fancy what I do on Instagram and people like my pictures, I still have areas in my life that I've not figured out. And maybe mine is finances.
Yours is finances.
No, it's like we can always make more money.
Yeah.
Money is like, you know, there's no limit how much money you can make. The question is if you're happy with the amount you have. So like money is definitely something of the things that like, you know, could be better. If I see the other alumni from University of St. Gallen who work for big corporates such as UBS and Credit Suisse, I mean, they make much more money.
Yeah.
Maybe triple or 4 times what I make.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
But you do what you really want to do.
Yes.
Every day. So that's for me definitely the important thing. So you talk about your team, and you also, well, we wrote emails before, and you talked about delegating and how important it is. How big is your team, and how would you say one could build a team like that and delegate well?
Sure. I mean, again, it's a process. Look, I highly recommend if you are in the beginning to do everything by yourself. Once you start like realizing like where you're very good at and where you're very bad at, start delegating the things that you're bad at. I always say like in the beginning I did everything, then I did what I was good at and what I liked. And now I'm only doing what I'm really good at and what I really like. And that is not because I just know where my strength is. So like, I think there's no point these days to like focus on the thing you're bad or weak at. So like you really have to go for your strength. Nevertheless, like I would say like today with the new type of work where you have a global talent pool where you can access talent, and I'm saying human being who can work on your project is unlimited. Like for every job post, and we can talk about like how I find people, but in general, for every job opening that I have between 30 to 50 people who apply in all various price ranges. So it really, like, you can always find something that like can help you.
Yeah.
Now for me, we have 3 different type of baskets of people that we work with. So we have 19 team members who help me on a regular basis, meaning once a week at least. Then we have about 5 to 10 people who are once I need them, like for example, like web development, I just don't need this every day. So like we have it like, let's say on demand. Yeah. And then I have another 25 to 30 videographers and photographers that have kind of like a pool of people that I've worked with at least once, more or less, I would say various cities in Switzerland and also like somewhere, some other countries around the world that I know I can call them and say like, hey, are you available? And then like, this is kind of like the way we work. So like, I kind of like manage this. And like now we started that like within the team that is working with me regularly to have sub teams. So we have the video team, we have the social media team. I have now 2 assistants who help me because I just can't, manage the emails and everything by myself anymore. It's like, so like you just have to like try to find a way to organize yourself so like it can get as efficient as possible. Now the fun part about this is like most of the tools we use are free. So like yes, we upgraded my Google Drive to 2 terabytes, but that is like $10 a month. And then we use WhatsApp for communication. I use Upwork, freelancer.com or Fiverr, like all of these freelancing platforms to find. So this is basically free. And then like you try to arrange it in a way like we use Google Drive, but like the Google Sheets, Google Docs, like to organize the data that we have. So like it's really very, very cheap to start.
My guess would be that the most expensive part is the people.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, you don't hire the 19 at the same time. You just have a pool.
So like we have only freelancers. So we don't have like, I don't have anybody who is like employed by me. I have people, all the people are contract based. So like they have on a project, usually on a project. Some of the people, like for example, like assistants, it's very hard to pay like per meeting schedule. So like it's per hour.
Yeah.
But in general, like it's all my project. Yes.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of dots to connect and times to manage.
It is. But I think like if you find the people that are not only passionate about the project, but also like are eager to work exactly on what they want to work on. So for example, like one of the first questions I ask in every interview, in brackets over WhatsApp in writing, because that's how I'm going to communicate with them, is like, where do you want to be in the next couple of years? What do you like to do? And if they're telling me like, oh, I would love to do audio production, but they applied for video, then I will not consider them for video. I will not, because like this is not, even if they have the skills, I would not. And that I think like has been working very well for us. So I don't look at CVs ever. I just talk to the people and see like where they want to be, what they want to do, and that usually works really well. Even if maybe in the beginning like they need more time to learn and acquire the skills, it is just much better experience over the long term.
Yeah. I think it's a very good question. People should ask that more in interviews.
Yes, I only ask like where they want to be, and if this answer aligns with what I'm looking for, even if it's not the specific job then I will consider them.
The thing is, that's super good because you also help them get there, because you give them the opportunity to build up the experience.
Yeah, not only that, like, you know, we had many people who within the team came up to me and said like, hey, like, I know I've been doing social media for now, but like, can I not help you on the biz dev side? And I said like, for sure, like, why not to add to your tasks? And like, that is totally fine with me. Like, I don't need you to have a Harvard degree to help me find like potential leads. Like, I can show you how it's done, and then we can figure out maybe there's a better way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really curious about your vision. So it says aspiring venture capitalist on your website. Yeah, tell me a bit more about that. Why that? And how are you planning to get there from here on out?
Basically, what fascinates me about like entrepreneurship is like dealing with the entrepreneurs themselves, like understanding like where are the pain points, like what do they need, how can we assist them in the process. And everybody talks about the process, but the process is not much more than how are you handling the bills, how are you handling HR, and like all of these different things. It is more about like really being there in the moment when it's about an emotional decision or it is a hard decision, or like really trying to guide the people so they can make their own feeling. I really, really deeply believe that an entrepreneur will always make the better decision than investors. Not specifically in the early stages. I'm not saying like maybe later stages when we go towards private equity is a different story. But in general, in the early stages, the entrepreneur is probably the only one who has spoken to as many customers as no one else did. So like he will probably have in his gut feeling the right answer, but that's not always so easy to come up with. So like if you want to do this at scale and you want to help people, you have to start investing, because if you do it by yourself all the time, that is just not scalable. But like if you can be part of people's process and see how they grow and make their vision come a reality, that is something that fascinates me every day. Whether they reach the actual vision or they have to change it, but like really people who are passionate about working on this. My theory is, or my thesis is, what we decided is like, if we feature the best people on the show and we can prove to potential GPs, general partners who would invest in my fund, that we have access to these people. So like we have access to the people who will then create the $1 billion companies. I believe it will be quote unquote easy way to raise the money for a smaller fund. A smaller fund can be anywhere between 20 and 50 million to really invest in the early stages of the companies. How we are going to get there, I don't have all the answers. I do know that we have spoken to a significant amount of people to validate this thesis, if this is something that like makes sense.
Yeah.
And the obvious answer is yes, but like you haven't put your money yet there, so like it's not really the same making a video as making an investment. But nevertheless, I really believe in the future that like venture capital, the way it is today, will change significantly. I mean, like it's an industry that established itself in the 1990s, so like there's time to also for venture capital by itself to evolve. So you see various ways from AngelList to equity crowdfunding, all types of ways like how venture capital will evolve. Even maybe going to crypto is also like maybe an interesting way how to kind of like make early stage investment liquid. So like there's all different aspects. So like right now we are looking for the right partners. You know, there are people like I always say like this. In entrepreneurship, you have to understand like where your innovation is. So like if I want to set up a fund, I don't have to be innovative how I deal with the regulator.
Yeah.
So like there are people who do set up funds every day and they know how to do it. So like we are now looking for the right partners. We have identified a few people that are interested, but again, it's in the very early stages. My goal was always like when we get to episode 300. So now we're at around 160, depends when this is getting released, but in general,
right.
160, so we have about 140 to go, which is a year and a half.
So you still got time.
We still got time. And we always have time. Time is in our hands right now.
I think that's a very, very inspiring vision. I'm excited to see what kind of fund you'll
we'll build. See if it works. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because we started out with a similar goal to help or to get more people into entrepreneurship and kind of help them along the way. And of course, a fund is one solution at some point in the future.
Great.
So that's...
I mean, we need more, specifically in Switzerland. I think like there's not enough, exposure for the entrepreneurs. So I would say went to a couple of, I don't want to call it competitors because it's an ecosystem, but people who do very similar stuff to me, but nothing specific yet for startups. And I told them, hey, we need more of content about entrepreneurs. If we want to foster entrepreneurship, if you want to show, then we have to like show the cases of success, of failure, both important, but also about the process itself. People, that's where I want to be. I want to be in the process. I don't want to be the people who only succeed and then only fail because I think both sides are too extreme.
Yes.
I want to be in the middle of like being part of the journey.
Yeah, it opens up this black box of entrepreneurship. I was wondering what's something crazy that you believe that most of the people around you don't believe.
The randomness I think is overrated, but I was saying what I do think is that like most of the things that good things that happened to me in business life, like excluding now family life, like many good things have happened. When I say business life have happened to me because of random occurrences, of random meetings of people that like, yes, you go to a conference, but you don't know who you're going to meet there. So like you put in an initial effort and then like things just pop up and you don't know where they're coming from. So I'm not saying this is the reality for every single day. Like most of the times you still have to chase the opportunities. I don't want to give like I don't want to say like it's opportunities just come in all the time. I'm saying like some of the opportunities that I had, whether that's for example like meeting with Stevie Wozniak, co-founder of Apple.
That was cool.
That was like, I mean like, that was pure serendipity. That was like, there was so much had to come together. Like a friend of mine who has been watching my videos, he invited me. He said to me like he can't cover flight or anything. He even said to me like I can't promise you're going to meet him. Yeah. So like I'm saying like just like okay like I know I'm flying to Vienna. I know I might be able to see him, but it might be that I'm just flying to Vienna and flying back in the evening, not seeing him, and then being there in the right moment and Stevie Wozniak really actually saying yes. So I'm saying like those are all things like even though like this was just a 1-minute clip out of hundreds of minutes of videos that I've done, like it's just like these moments that like are unpredictable. And I think this is something that like many people don't realize, that when you start something from passion, the rest, and again, I haven't figured it all out by myself, but the rest should be falling in place according to people who have much more life experience than I have.
I believe that too. I think you put yourself in spots where, those random things happen to you though. I mean, you could have just stayed at home
Yes.
In the very beginning, stop blogging, and then these things would not have happened. But you have done around 160 episodes, so and so many minutes, and then, I mean, without your previous work, you wouldn't have, your friend wouldn't have called you and said,
"This could be interesting for you."
Yes. So I do believe serendipity is real. I do think, though, that you can kind of make it happen as well. You can influence it, or the amount of times it's going to happen to you, or I don't know exactly, but you can put yourself in the situation of being lucky if you put in the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, lucky is maybe like a different way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
Serendipity is just like, I would really say, like, so many times, like, you also go sometimes to the co-working place, to Cineplats. So like when I sit there and like people come up to you and they say, hey, like I watched your videos, and I never ask how long they're watching because I can see that. But in general, like if they watch even a minute or 2 minutes of their time and they watch my videos, I always feel very, very honored if I've never met these people. And like that you are like on people's mind, even though like you might be sitting at home physically, you're on people's mind and they're like thinking of you, and like this by itself opens up opportunities.
Yeah. And it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling, and it helps a lot when your idea is validated by the market, in one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure. We had a few times. We're way younger than you are, so I guess we're getting less of these situations. But we had a few times where people came up and, hey, I listened to your podcast, and that's just.
That's great.
That feels good. Someone is listening.
Yes.
Oh, it's really great.
I think it should never be about the numbers. I mean,
no.
I always quote Gary Vee. I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
He has this one video. I think it was really inspirational to me, where the title is "1 is bigger than 0," where he just says like, if you have a video and you have one person watching, it's literally one view, and that person is sending you an email for a $1 million deal. Like this video was worth it. And like reality is like most of my videos have maybe, I don't know, 100 views or 120 or a couple of 100 views. It doesn't really matter, but like if you imagine how many people are actually paying attention to this for however long, that is like mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
Just by itself.
Just imagine a room full of 100 people.
Yes.
And they know you and listen to your content, and you influence them. You kind of help them in some way.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. So we talked about good things that you did. What's one thing that you did really badly? Because everyone, as you said, there's
the learnings.
Yeah,
I mean, my learning is by far like I think I waited for way too long to speak to define my target audience, but also like to ask them and go out and not be too shy to like get a rejection and say like, hey, I don't have time for you, or not get a reply. I always feel it's worse to not get a reply than to say no, I don't have time. And they kind of like leave you hanging. But I think like right now I think there's like definitely like what I recommend, if you are producing videos or any type of content, produce 3 to 5 and then go out and ask. I'm not a big fan of like strategizing before you did anything, but once you have something that you can show, then it's much easier to get feedback. If you're Instagram and you want to do pictures, then maybe 2, 3 is not enough. Then do 20. But like if you are doing videos or podcasts, I think after 2 to 5, you can definitely go to people who are in your target audience and say like, hey, look, I did this. I want to continue this. Can you like maybe have 5 to 10 minutes to talk to me about like what you're interested in? And that's it. And I would say so many people that you have not expected that they would say yes, they actually say yes.
Yeah, you get surprised.
It's a numbers game. If you send out 50 emails, you will have 5 to 10 people who will say yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
If you send out 2, then the likelihood that both say no, then is rather high.
Then you got to ask yourself, do you really want to do it? If you just send out 2. Yeah. We're working on a startup ourselves, and we're really impressed by how open people are to help and give 10, 15 minutes.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So it's really worth it. Do you read books?
Yes.
What's one book that you would recommend to entrepreneurs?
Whatever. I mean, there's the classic one, 0 to 1. That's a classic. I just read 12 Lessons to Life. From
Jordan Peterson?
Yes. I never remember the author's name.
I bought it. Is it good?
I mean, it is overall very good. I think I wouldn't agree with all of the lessons that he had. But I would say like the essence is like, keep in mind where you come from, kind of like keep in mind like what the big reality is, and like that like everybody has has he not figured out, like kind of like that, like is the essence. So like, yes, I think it is very good. I mean, definitely worth to read. I would also recommend 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Very, very good book about like how data is being used and how it will shape our world. Just one example is like all of like the way of algorithms and how they can predict and make our life happier based on our behavior. And what that means, if Amazon can decide something for you where you deeply believe that this will make you happier, and data can adjust according to like maybe what's best for them, question mark. Not like saying, like I'm saying like if you know that like the last 10 times Amazon suggested what was the best for you, they might suggest you the 11th time something that is best for them.
Yes.
And that is like a very interesting perspective that is worthwhile just to put a thought into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Noah Yuval Harari, he wrote 3 books, Homo Sapiens, Homo Deus, and 21 Lessons
for the
21st Century. I read all 3. I think that one was definitely the best. But all 3 are very good.
But I'm hearing super good things about the other 2.
It's very controversial. I wouldn't read it if you're like still like finding yourself in a way of like religion or like teenager age, because it does open up a lot of questions that you have after. So if you're not settled, like knowing like what you believe and where you want to go, then like it might open up too many questions.
Okay, so young people, don't read this book.
I'm not saying like don't read it. I'm just like be aware what you're going to read.
Okay, let's see what it will do to me. And
no, it made me think a lot. Talk to my wife about it, but it's good. Yeah, like that's what should be.
Awesome, Cedric. Thank you so much for.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
All right.